What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Miles TV, where we're doing our episodic review recap slash all of the above of MythCraft. We're doing MythCraft, the podcast today. Episode 5 of MythCraft. We're working our way up there. We're gonna catch up in no time, no problem at all. Episode 5, A Critical Juncture. Now, this is a combat episode. We dive right into combat. Last we left off, the crew was looking for this mining team. They found a hole. The hole had the miners in it. There was a stick of dynamite at the top of the hole. Then they see this creature, Anzu. I think it's called an Anzu. They see the Anzu. Combat starts. They roll for initiative. We're not going to go into too much detail of the combat. Remember back in the day, I used to make maps and try to act out everything that happens, but we're not going to do that. They do go off into combat. Kyle has some really good ideas for bystanders. I know sometimes I do combat and I forget that certain people are there and certain people have to do things and stuff. He had a really good, for these miners, they had to do a thing called a fear check. And between certain numbers, they would do useful or not so useful or neutral things, depending on their fear check. So I thought that was really creative. They begin to fight. The Anzu, I think, went first. They find out while fighting that the gears are stuck in the mine shaft. The gears are stuck for the elevator for the miners to get out, so they had to go and basically fix the gears so the miners can get out. I love the threat of, hey, you got this creature up here that's gonna kill you. You gotta save these miners, and this is how you do it. It's such a good DM to create tension on both sides to instead of just having a combat of you just gotta beat that thing. No, you gotta beat these things, and there's other objectives that you have to do. So that's really great, really great planning from the DM. But amidst the combat, Lucian comes up and he puts a crowbar in the ground and he ties a rope to it and he tosses it down to the miners and he tells the miners to come up. Roger is really good at this. There's a lot of times that Roger, and the last person I was like, this is creative, is Austin from TheHomeBrew, the main show in Power Word Fail. He is really creative. He thinks of a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. He thinks outside of the box, and I really appreciate that he can, not saying anybody else can't, but he does it a lot more than everybody else is like, oh, that was great, because one time he jammed some knives in the door and stuff, and I was like, yo, who would have thought? And then the DM has to come up with a DC check for that stuff, but he made an alternate route for the miners to get out the mine shaft. But of course, they had to roll well to use the rope, and I think some of them rolled badly. Whatever. Keres is actually a really good utility character. A lot of times they use a vitality aura or some kind of buffing thing that helps people around them. And you would not think Keres is an interesting character because she's so chaotic. They are intellectual and so to the point, but yet so this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna kill some people, but I don't know. They just are really good at that. And you think that this person would be a rogue type assassin, but then it's always a utility character. So I like that. That is just not your standard oh, this person's chaotic, they're a rogue or something like that, or a fighter. Seems like Keres is very much a mid-range utility fighter. She does notice that the dynamite could blow up, and she ends up like kicking it into the hole. I think the Anzu has like this fire breath and it breathes, and then it was real close to the dynamite, and Keres uses one of her action points to like kick it into the hole, so that's not a problem. So I was like, good eye on that. Lucian does some stuff here. I didn't write it in my notes, but I always put that Lucian is creative too. That he comes up with great, interesting ideas. He was a utility character too, and there's a lot of times, and I know he's a troubadour. He gives people increased initiative. He gives people shields. He does a really good job of like, I'm going to stick to my role and help everybody else succeed. They have a luck roll at this point, and I think Hildegard rolled it, and Hildegard got a voice in her head, called her Chipmunk, and some Hildegard lore. We got to find out more about that because Hildegard is pretty mysterious, almost as mysterious as Harlow. But I feel like if you walk up to Hildegard and be like, "Hey, tell me your deepest secrets," Hildegard's like, "Okay," but Harlow's like, "You're not ready for that." Anyway, Thistle, natural born killer. Thistle is a 10-year-old natural born killer. She has already went on so many adventures, and Thistle is already the hero that she wants to be. They want to be. Thistle, if Thistle were to stop adventuring right now, they would have some epic stories to tell their kids or so on or so forth, whatever. The kids that run into the bar, whatever. Thistle keeps killing people. And it sounds so bad. But Thistle gets the last shot on this Anzu. Watch out, it's not even going to be an Anzu. But Thistle gets the last shot on this Anzu, takes it down. She immediately starts harvesting some of the talons from it. After everybody kind of like gets out of danger mode, the miners start talking to everybody, and Kyle tries to give Lucian an item. He was like, "Hey, why didn't you use the rope I threw down?" And he was like, "Oh, we have these gloves. These aren't mine, so whatever." And he throws the gloves down, and Lucian's just like, noted. They end up going to go investigate the nest, and they find some eggs. I think it's like 3 eggs, and they're trying to figure out what to do with the eggs. And then somebody mentions that Queen Otano could probably take them. She's a ranger of some sort, so she has like a menagerie of animals and kind of like a garden. Keres ends up looking around, and she finds a cutlass sword with a compass in it. And when she holds it, she knows where true left is. It's to the north. No, it's to the left. I'm sorry, I messed up that joke horribly. True left is to the north. They hang out for a while because the miners are like, "Hey, this is why it happens. That nest was over there, but we still had to do our job. So if you guys could just hang out and like watch our backs, we can finish our job and get out of here." So they do that. The miners do their jobs, and they get out of there. The episode starts to wrap up. Kyle kind of divvies out the gear that everybody got. Lucian got the new gloves. Keres got the sword. And then they all got some eggs. And that's where the episode ends. It's a really good combat episode. I really liked it. Everybody was so useful, from Fran to Keres to Thistle. They all had things. Everybody on the show is so creative when it comes to combat or describing what their character can do. It's not just like, I cast Fireball. It's like, Fran sticks his hands into the ground, and the vines you can see spreading and it's just so descriptive, and it gets you into the mood of like enjoying this podcast. So I really do appreciate that. It's very immersive. I feel like everybody uses that word too loosely. It's like, join this immersive podcast, and it's not that immersive. But this one, MythCraft, everybody does a really good job of pulling you in. Everybody does a really good job. Combat episode, really enjoyed it. There was some lore in there. There was some secrets revealed. There was good combats, creativity. There was not just go beat up the guy and fight. There was multiple objectives there. Even though when you have one enemy and a whole bunch of players, it just becomes on dogpile on the one bad guy. So I mean that is a thing, but there's nothing you can kind of do about like having low level people there. I think I was listening to the newest episode today, and they're like certain levels. I want to know more when they level up. I think they might say it every now and again at certain episodes, but I wish that the beginning of the episodes or some episodes is like, we're level 5, and sometimes I want the stats of like, we're level 5 and we took these feats and things like that. But whatever. But anyway, solid episode. Definitely a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. It was a solid episode. I like this episode a lot. It's one of my favorite lines from the show. One of my favorite lines on this podcast came from this episode. It's when Keres picks up the sword and Kyle's like, you know where True North is. And she's like, yeah, it's to the left. I love that line so much. Because Elmwish and fighting with... Anyway. As always, jump in the podcast. Look at me. Jump in the Discord. Talk to everybody. If you guys want me to review something else, let me know. If you guys like the reviews, let me know. Leave a comment below. I gotta fix my camera angles down there. You know. But as always, thanks for tuning in to Miles TV. I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.